Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dakota Hufford. I am the Communications and Program Coordinator for Clackamas River Basin Council. And I'm joined by Amy Barton, our Communications and Stewardship Manager. There is also a bird. This is Crow. He will be joining us and might chime in. And just a quick special thanks to Gail Shalom and Wes for their contributions to this webinar. And thank you all so much for being here in our second of 5 webinar series designed to help you be a better steward to your land here in Clackamas Basin. Just quickly, a brief schedule. We'll do a very quick CRBC intro. We'll talk about natural lawn care, IPM basics, native plants, dog waste, storm drains, and litter. And then we'll get into de-icers, fertilizer, and pressure washing. And then finally, some car washing tips, and then what you can do in your own space. And finally, ending it with a Q&A portion. Our main goal today is that you just take away one practical and actionable practice that you learn here and apply it to your home as much as possible. And we do want to hear from you, but in order to conserve time, just go ahead and save your questions for the Q&A portion.
All right, everyone. So here at the Clackamas River Basin Council, our mission is to foster partnerships for clean water, to improve fish and wildlife habitat, and enhance the quality of life for those who live, work, and recreate within the Clackamas River Basin. We are a 501c3 nonprofit watershed council, and for the past 20 years, we've been invested in restoring and protecting the Clackamas River and all of its tributaries. We work to collaborate and build diverse partnerships to have a greater impact in our community. We partner with all types of entities, including individuals like you all here joining us today, nonprofits, government agencies, community organizations, water providers, schools, you name it, to get our work done. And we're here to help you with issues, including removing noxious weeds from your property, shading streams, wildfire recovery, river cleanups, and much more. But if you look outside the Clackamas watershed, there are 90 other recognized watershed councils throughout the state that can be of assistance to you.
Okay, so we do have a very vocal friend in the background. I apologize for this. He should calm down here in a moment. But we are going to talk about natural lawn care and how it relates to water quality. So there are a couple different things about lawns, but if you do have a lawn in your yard, there are a couple of things that you can do to protect the surrounding waterways and keep it healthy. So just a couple of things to incorporate into your lawn care. You want to mow high, so you want to mow about 3 to 3.5 inches tall using a sharp blade and cut only the top 1/3 at any time. You should leave your grass clippings, as this adds organic material to the soil and nitrogen and does not actually cause thatching. You should water efficiently, let it go dormant in the summer, and only 1 inch of water is needed per week, including the rain. So water deeply and infrequently, and in the mornings if you can. Test your soil. This should be done every 3 to 5 years to see what's there and help restore balance. Lawns grow best at a soil pH between 6 and 6.5. And this is something you can have done if you're a Clackamas County resident through Clackamas Soil and Water Conservation District. Just reach out to them. And then just using less overall chemicals. And by taking preventative measures, you won't need as many chemicals, such as the mowing high. And then finally, you should aerate, overseed, and top dress. The core aeration removes small soil plugs to reduce compaction and control thatch and increase water absorption. Overseeding in the fall helps to increase the density in your grass. And then finally, top dressing with a thin layer of compost or mulched leaves helps to increase the organic matter. And then just to get into IPM very briefly, this is integrated pest management, and it is an effective and more environmentally sensitive approach to managing pests, whether that be a weed or an insect pest, and it relies on a combination of common sense practices. It's not a single control method, but rather a series of pest management evaluations, decisions, and controls. He really has a lot to say about IPM. And so when you're practicing IPM, growers who are aware of the potential for pest infestation there's 4 tiers to the approach. And the first is setting your threshold for action. So knowing when you want to treat, identifying and monitoring pests, IDing your pest species is really key to picking the right type of control. And then taking preventative measures such as cultural or mechanical, and then an actual control with chemicals as a last resort. And so our little IPM pyramid over here shows down at the bottom, these cultural controls are really the like foundation. So things like mowing high and using sharp blades. And then the mechanical controls are things like increasing your height to your mowing and then cleaning up the leaves. And then way up at the top, you'll see chemicals controls as kind of your last option.
Okay, another landscaping feature that we recommend you incorporate into your space is native plants. Native plants offer a wide array of ecological benefits, you know, when they're out in nature, out in the forest, but they can do a lot for home gardens. And their benefits really start in their roots. They have complex root systems that filter water that's coming off of our homes, our driveways, our decks, water that will eventually make its way into storm drains or into nearby creeks. And these roots also do a really good job holding on to soil and preventing erosion. So if you take a look at the graphic on the top right there, you'll notice just how long those native plant roots are. The 9 bark there, those root systems are almost 15 feet deep. But that little, mustache there on the left, that's just typical lawn grass. So those roots are really not doing much for water quality or holding on to that soil. So native plants also, of course, support a great abundance of wildlife, bees, butterflies, and insects, adding to the overall biodiversity of your space, which promotes an overall healthier and more functional ecosystem. And we really love this quote from the Illinois Nutrient Loss Reduction Strategy, which is on the screen there. If half of American yards were replaced with native plants, we would create the equivalent of a 20 million acre national park. So we can really do a lot in our own yards. Even if you live next to a big green space or forested area, it's still great to incorporate native plants into your yard. And some of the plants that you can see on the screen here are Douglas's aster, snowberry on the left, and then moving right, we have kinnikinick, red flowering currant, ocean spray, and of course, Oregon's state flower, the Oregon grape.
Okay, so we're going to talk about dog waste and storm drains. So I think we kind of all know the adage of cleaning up after your pets and definitely encouraging people to do the same. This is important because Clackamas County has almost 100,000 dogs within the county, and the FDA, the Food and Drug Administration, estimates that a dog excretes about 0.75 pounds of waste per day. So that adds up to nearly 13,000 tons of pet waste in our county per year. So this can create a couple of different problems if it's not getting cleaned up. It can get into the storm runoff, and polluted storm runoff would then carry pet waste and other pollutants just directly into waterways. The animal waste then adds to the nitrogen to the water, and excess nitrogen depletes the oxygen in water necessary for beneficial aquatic vegetation, wildlife, and fish. So it is just sapping ecosystem function out of that water. And then animal waste may also contain harmful organisms such as Giardia, Salmonella, and E. coli that can definitely be transmitted by ingesting that contaminated water. So Certainly clean up chalk waste as much as you can, and definitely encourage others to do the same. And then cleaning out your storm drains. So regularly cleaning out your storm drains of leaves and debris helps reduce flooding and property damage while also protecting watershed health and the quality of our drinking water. Here are a couple of tips from the Oregon Environmental Council and Clackamas Water Environmental Services. So look outside in the street by your house, find the storm drain grates nearest your home and just simply clear them of the leaves using a rake or a pitchfork. Make sure that you're getting limbs and as much debris kind of out as possible, and just don't try to remove the storm grate, just the debris on top. When leaves do fall into the street, rake them at least 1 foot away from the curb so they won't block the path of rainwater, and don't rake or blow leaves from your yard into the street. That causes more of an issue with drain clogging. And then, of course, never dump anything questionable other than just pure water down into a storm drain, as a reminder. And then also keeping your homes and drains clean, that it can also help lower your risk of property damage caused by flooding. Standing water can also seep into the asphalt cracks and cause premature failure of the pavement in and around your home as well. So this is definitely a structural issue as well as an environmental. And then finally, if you're feeling really motivated about storm drain maintenance, you can adopt a storm drain by your home and in your street, and then maintain a regular cleaning schedule. Make a note on your calendar each quarter to clean and clear the debris from your drains, and make a habit of checking them after a storm.
All right, well, we'll talk briefly about litter. You probably already know this, but the fact is trash on the ground makes its way into our waterways. So some little bits of information that we found when we were researching this, to horrify all of us, but cigarette butts, when they're on the ground or in a landfill, it takes them 1 to 10 years to decompose in a landfill. Plastic can take 100 to 400 years to break down in a landfill, but if you recycle 5 2-liter bottles, it produces enough to build or create a ski jacket, a fiber fill ski jacket. I thought that was pretty cool. Aluminum cans take 200 to 500 years to break down, but recycling them uses only 5% of the energy used to make the original product. So using a recycled can. Glass can take 1 million years for it to break down. And don't even get us started on polystyrene. It's frustrating, I'm sure, for you when you see trash on the ground or in the street. But keep in mind that a lot of that is accidental. Next slide, please. So some solutions that we can offer are keeping a trash bag in the car, because things tend to just fall out. When we get out of the car, I've got 2 little kids, so that happens to me sometimes. I always keep a trash grabber in my car in the trunk. It's proven to be very useful. So when I see something on the road or in a parking lot that I want to pick up, but not with my hands, it's great to have a trash grabber around. I'll always make sure also that street trash bins have lids that can be securely attached. I don't know about you, but I have some very curious wildlife around my house that I'm sure would love to get into my trash bin. Just basically, we observe that when people come together, we see the most impact. So one thing that you can do is to encourage others in your neighborhood is to organize maybe a trash cleanup event. So I know someone who does this with their neighbors, and it's a great way to get everyone involved, even kids, and spread awareness and make new friends. So the left image shows a group doing their own cleanup. And the image on the right is from our Clackamas River ambassadors. They organize their own weekly river cleanups on the Clackamas River, and that's just how much the trash they picked up from one river run. So there's a lot of trash out there. We also give you, full license to be that person in the neighborhood or on the beach picking up trash. The middle image is me with my trusty trash grabber during a kayaking trip with my friends. So the point is that you are the model and others will be inspired by your actions and want to do what you're doing.
Awesome. Yeah. Okay. So to touch on fertilizers, as I'm sure you are aware, fertilizers add synthetic nutrients to the environment. So the fertilizers that are able to find their way into our local water bodies help fuel the rapid and harmful growth of algae and other aquatic plant life. And so often this growth explodes and creates something called an algal bloom, and ultimately eutrophication, which lowers the overall ecological function of that water. Eutrophication occurs when there is an excess of nutrients in the water, and that causes an excess of growth and then immediate death. And then that pulls all the nutrients that were up at the top down to the bottom of the water, and that causes a dead zone. And so nothing can really live or grow there. There is no more oxygen in that area. So then on top of the environmental impacts that the algal blooms and eutrophication can cause, excess nitrogen in drinking water is a serious health hazard to humans as well. So just some solutions in terms of how we think about fertilizers. I did mention IPM, which can be applied here as well, integrated pest management. The more you are keeping on top of things, the less likely it is that you're going to need something like a synthetic fertilizer. So when you're looking at fertilizers at the store, and in addition to the IPM and the natural lawn care techniques that were mentioned before, some tips are to just make sure that you're choosing the correct type, check the labels, apply the right amount at the right time. So a lot of the times there's charts, and we can certainly provide those as well. I do have some in the resources here. There are charts for wherever you live, based on the season, when would be the best time to fertilize and what you're fertilizing, what you're using. So there's little charts that can help with that. And then after you do use fertilizer, you can mulch to help keep it in place. And then so slow release fertilizer can be a little bit more expensive, but it's a lot less mobile and a lot less likely to enter our waterways. So that is a preferable method if you do choose to use fertilizer. And then de-icers. So this is kind of a bigger deal in the East Coast where they get a lot of snow, but we use it here too, and it's a big deal. So de-icers or road salts, they are often made from salt, and they can hurt the health of streams, plants, and natural areas that they come into contact with. So when ice and snow melt from the sidewalks and streets, or sometimes in our case here in Pacific Northwest, there hasn't even been a snow melt. It gets carried away with the rains that come. The salts, as well as everyday dirt, grime, and other pollutants flow right into the storm drains, and eventually enter the streams and groundwater. So as traffic drives through the melt or that rainfall, it sprays roadsides, plants, and soils. The chloride from these compounds can be super toxic to aquatic life, including fish, frogs, and insects. It hurts plant growth and soil quality, and it only takes, this was the fact that got me. It only takes 1 teaspoon of salt to permanently pollute 5 gallons of water. And we're putting a lot of teaspoons of salt out when we are de-icing our pavement. So something to keep in mind. And then also, as as somebody who lives in a structure, salts can also damage your concrete. It can corrode metal, and it can really mess up the plants in your garden, as well as causing cracking of your pet's pots. And we cannot have that. So some other solutions, some alternatives to kind of your classic de-icers are products made out of these things: urea, carbohydrates, calcium, magnesium acetate, and potassium acetate. Sand and gravel can be used as well, but even sand and gravel can be kind of harmful to stream health if they are going straight into a waterway. So be sure to shovel up any excess materials, including salt. So if we think it's gonna snow and it doesn't snow or get icy, you can just go out with a broom and sweep that up as much as possible. But definitely this winter, if you're feeling unsafe, give one of these products a try and see how that works. Okay, and pressure washing. So what is the problem with power washing? It is a super convenient way to clean surfaces and equipment, but it can send dirty runoff containing oil, soap, chemicals, metals, and other sediments directly into storm drain systems. So most storm drain systems have 0 to minimal treatment, and they drain directly toward the surface water or groundwater that we're all working to protect. Here's a couple of ways that our waters are being negatively impacted by power washing. Sediment clouds the water, causing turbidity, and that hinders aquatic plant growth and hurts fish. Even the biodegradable soaps will take oxygen out of the water as well, and so that hurts things that are living in the water. Household hazardous wastes like pesticides and paints and solvents and all these things that can collect on driveways or sidewalks outside of the house, those all poison things that live in the water, and animals as well as humans can also become sick from these pollutants. So some solutions to power washing: you can site prep. You can soak up any oil or fluids using absorbents like cat litter, sawdust, or sand, and then use dry cleanup methods before power washing, things like sweeping and like blowing with an electric leaf blower. You can make sure that you're directing your dirty runoff straight into either a lawn or a landscaped area away from a storm drain system. And then also you want to be sure to avoid using hot water when you are power washing, because it has a tendency to pick up more chemicals and can just kind of exacerbate things that are already being picked up by the water as it is.
All right, so some tips on car washing. There is kind of a lot to unpack here when it comes to washing cars, surprisingly. Many do believe that when you wash your car at home, it might be better for the environment. However, when cars are washed in driveways or streets or parking lots, the water that comes off of our cars, it contains soaps and detergents, residue from exhaust fumes, gasoline, motor oil, that list goes on. And this dirty water runs very quickly when it's on concrete, and it can flow directly into the storm drains like what Dakota was just talking about, or just straight into the nearest creek or stream, where it can harm water quality and wildlife. Next slide, please. So we recommend that you take your car to an environmentally friendly commercial car wash, if you can find one that calls itself environmentally friendly, or just a commercial car wash in general. Commercial car wash facilities use up to 60% less water than home washing, according to the EPA. They're also subject to federal regulations as far as managing the water that comes from their facility. But if you need to wash your car at home, or you just prefer it, you can use biodegradable, phosphate-free, or water-based cleaners. You can also use a spray gun that has a flow restriction to minimize the amount of water volume that you're using. You can wash in an area that absorbs water, such as gravel or grass, like that middle picture. This can help filter that water before it enters the groundwater if it's on some vegetated space. But only let the water soak into the ground as long as you're using those biodegradable, phosphate-free cleaners. But if you need to wash on concrete or asphalt, you can try to make sure that it drains to a vegetated space. And then any buckets that you're using for soaps and waters, if you just dump those into a sink or a toilet, that would be helpful. And let's say that you're planning a car wash fundraiser. One option in that case is to host it make a community partnership with a commercial car wash facility. That's one way to kind of avoid doing it in a parking lot where these situations might occur. And then one more tip for water quality and cars is keeping your tires fully inflated. This time of year, when it gets cold, the air compresses until your tires might give you that notification that, hey, we're a little low on air. So please go ahead and get those filled. Tires contain a chemical called 6-PPD that's added to tires to prevent their cracking and degradation. But by keeping tires inflated, you can reduce tire dust. So tire dust gets into waterways, and the 6-PPD and its derivatives are acutely toxic to fish species, including coho salmon. And here in the Clackamas watershed, we do have a lot of coho salmon. So just doing our best to keep our tires inflated and keeping that dust out of the waterways is great for our water quality. Whoops, sorry, that's me too. All right, so we're almost done. Our watershed, like many others, is rapidly changing due to human-caused changes in development, with many streams and natural areas being heavily impacted by these changes. I don't know if you've heard the term urban stream syndrome, but many of our streams in our urbanized areas are becoming incised. They have less shade, they're warmer, and generally less healthy overall. So by stewarding your own space and helping spread the word to others about native plants, reporting noxious species, noxious weeds to the proper authorities, you can help mitigate all of these environmental changes on a community level. So a couple just final ways that you can be a great steward of your land and encourage others to do the same. Try out, 1 to 2 of our natural lawn care practices, like keeping your grass longer, or maybe just like taking that little mustache grass out altogether. Adding native plants to your garden or space, joining or maybe organizing your own community cleanup event, adding or avoiding pressure washing as much as possible, taking your car to a commercial, environmentally friendly car wash, picking up that dog poo, caring for your storm drains, clearing them out if possible, and just keeping them in mind when you're out in your yard. And lastly, just working overall to reduce water use. There's lots of handy devices out there that you can use, timers when you're in the shower, things like that, turning off water when brushing your teeth. Those are all things that we recommend for you.